Hey guys, this is me, Kevin Murphy, on my channel called Narcissistic Abuse, Learning Who I Am Again. In today's video, I want to talk about how going to other people and expecting them to heal our childhood wounds will create dysfunction and create imbalance in our relationship. So what I've noticed, especially after talking to a lot of survivors, is they will look to spouses, significant others, or friendships to heal that wound or that childhood trauma. And this is something that I have struggled with for many, many, many years without even realizing it. So sometimes we'll do it unconsciously, sometimes we do it consciously. But what happens is when we go to another person to heal or expect them to heal unfinished wounds or unfinished business that happened in our childhood, we're creating an imbalance. So when it comes to relationships, especially when we're adults, there is an equal level of how we relate to each other. So I'm pouring into you, you're pouring into me. I'm whole all by myself, you're whole all by yourself. So these are things that I've talked about in other videos where when we enter into relationships with other people, we come into the relationship as our whole individual self. That person comes into the relationship their whole independent self. But when we have suffered trauma, when we have suffered rejection, when we have suffered a lot of uncertainty in our childhood, we come into the relationship empty. So as a result, that person that we're coming into the relationship with may be whole and already know who they are, but we come into the relationship empty, expecting them to tell us who we are. So that creates a dysfunction, and this person's all the way up here and we're all the way down here. So we're looking to that person for validation. We're looking to that person to tell us that we're okay. We're looking to that person to give us definition when we should be giving ourselves that kind of definition. And the definition that we give ourselves, we should be pouring into the relationships that we have with others. Another thing that I've learned in the midst of this journey is that when we look to other people to heal us or fix us, we're essentially using them. So what I mean by that is, think about the reason why you get into the real reason why we should get into relationships with other people. We get into relationships with other people so that way I can help you grow. You help me grow. I bring my best, you bring your best. I come into the relationship with something to offer and put to the table. You have something to offer and bring to the table. Now, if that other person is bringing their best and I'm bringing all my baggage, it creates a lot of imbalance. So what happens is I start to depend on that person excessively. So I start to expect things and expect that person to perform beyond the parameters of what's appropriate to expect in a relationship. So what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, I met a friend and me and this friend, hit it off. And I come into the relationship with this friend broken, and I start sharing all my problems and all my deepest, darkest secrets with them after just knowing them for maybe about a few days or a couple weeks or even a month. And that person comes into the relationship already whole. They come from a good background, they come from a good home, but I come from a bad home. I come from a tumultuous background, and I start pouring in all my problems to this person. So already this friend is all the way up here because he is or she is bringing in their best into the relationship, and here I'm all the way down here, and I'm bringing all my baggage, all of my problems, all of my issues into the relationship. So I am looking to this friend to elevate me and to bring me up when I should already be brought up already in the relationship, and this person's here, and then together we bring something, great. So I'm already whole and this person's already whole, but together we're better. Together we can, we're growing and we're edifying one another. But what happens is, if I come into the relationship expecting this person to fix me and expecting this person to give me something that my parents should have given to me, or expecting them to give me something that I should be giving to myself, then that's where we run into issues with codependency. So my suggestion is when we're meeting people, we should what we should do is we should continue to work on ourselves, continue to work on what are appropriate things I should be expecting within the parameters of a friendship. What are appropriate things I should be expecting within the parameters of a romantic relationship, whether it's my spouse or significant other? Because the things that I should be expecting out of a friendship is going to look entirely different than what I should be expecting that's appropriate within the parameters of a romantic relationship. So, for example, for me, I was expecting the same type of treatment, the same type of attentiveness, the same type of attention in a friendship that I would be expecting in a romantic relationship. So as a result of that, my friendships became really weird and became really intense because the things that I was expecting from that friend were way beyond what was appropriate within the parameters of our relationship and within our friendship. So the things that we should be expecting with it that are within the parameters of our friendship should be respect, and for that person to treat us on par with how we feel about ourselves. So what I mean by expecting someone to treat us on par with how we feel about ourselves. So we should already know how we are. We should already know who we are. So for me, I feel that I'm a compassionate person. I feel that I'm a nice person. I feel that I'm a caring and good person. So I'm going to enter into my relationship, whether it's with a friend or a spouse or a significant other, believing those things about myself. I believe that I'm honest. I believe that I am trustworthy. I believe that that I'm thoughtful, that I'm intelligent, that I'm smart, that I have all of these things to offer people in my relationships. So if I am entering into a relationship with someone and they're treating me contradictory to how I feel about myself, then I'm going to distance myself and exit the relationship. So those are things that are appropriate to expect within the parameters of the relationship. The things that are inappropriate to expect within the parameters of a friendship is for someone to give you unconditional positive regard. So what I mean by that is you should not be expecting a friendship or even a spouse or a significant other to constantly tell you, oh, you're the greatest, you're such a wonderful person, oh, just constantly giving you validation and filling you up with things that you should be giving to yourself. So if you're not sure of who you are yet, I would do a personal inventory. Spend some time with yourself, because the more you spend time with yourself or spend time with other people, the more you get to know other people and yourself. But when you don't spend enough time with yourself, when you avoid getting to know yourself, you don't get to know what your core values are. You don't get to know what your deal breakers are. You don't get to know what you're about. And then what happens is you enter into a relationship out of desperation and out of vulnerability, and you look to that person to teach you and to train you who you are, when you should be doing that for yourself. So a couple of exercises are journal, just spend some time just figuring out who you are, pray, meditate, just figure out, okay, who is so and so and so. Look at yourself in the mirror. What are some things that you enjoy doing? As of recently, I started just doing a lot of things that I enjoy doing by myself. And as a result, I've noticed that I have developed a lot of confidence in myself. I've developed a lot of confidence within my relationships with other people. And when I go into my relationships and when it's time to hang out with other people, I come in with things to offer to other people because I'm taking the time to nurture and to take care of myself. So those are things that we as survivors need to do, is to really nurture and to take care of self. Learn what we can and are able to offer into our relationships with others. When we look to, there's times where I've heard of survivors looking to their spouses or their significant others as a parent. So, and that's something that's not okay. Like if we had an issue with an opposite sex parent, we may look to that opposite sex spouse or significant other to be that parent that we never had before. And again, it creates that imbalance. Whereas when we're with a significant other, when we're with a friend, when we're in a relationship with a friend, we're supposed to be here, and instead of being here, because when we're here, there's a lot of dysfunction. There's a lot of window opportunities for codependent relationships, and we also run the risk of attracting other narcissists and toxic people into our lives. So it's very important to realize that when I when I have gone through trauma, and when I look to somebody else to fix that traumatic experience, or I look for somebody else to heal that traumatic experience for me. Number one, I'm handing over my responsibility to somebody else. Number two, I'm giving them control over my life, and number three, I'm creating an imbalance within the relationship. And our goal to heal and as survivors is to create balance in our relationship, is to have healthy and whole relationships, and to be healthy and whole people within the relationships that we have with people. The whole purpose of having relationships is so that way we can grow together, so that way we can be better, that we can be better together. We're already good by ourselves, but we're better together, and we learn a lot from one another. Like, I learn a lot from my friends. I'm pretty sure that my friends learn a lot from me. I'm sure, you guys, my viewers, learn a lot from, the things that I discuss on my channel. So if it wasn't for relationships and solidarity and community, we wouldn't be learning as much. So we have community, and we rely on each other in that regard, so that way we can continue to learn from one another, and we can continue to be powerful, and we can continue to grow. But if our purpose is to be in a relationship with other people so we can latch on to them, or we can get them to define us, or get them to give us a sense of belonging, then we're in relationship for the wrong reason, because we need to be able to define ourselves. Our trauma doesn't define us. Our friendships doesn't define us. Our jobs don't define us. We define ourselves. We know ourselves better than anybody else on this planet. So to go to another person to seek validation from them, to go to another person to get some form of gratification from them is cheapening the experience that of us getting to know ourselves, and is cheapening the opportunity to give ourselves that sense of identity. So if you find yourself saying, "Hey, I've been through trauma. My parents treated me like shit, and I don't know who I am." Take the time to spend time with self, and to learn who you are again. Learn what makes you tick. Learn what your deal breakers are. Learn what is appropriate to it. What are appropriate parameters to expect within a relationship with someone. Learn what is socially appropriate when it comes to dealing with people in relationships. When I started becoming friends with people, it wasn't until I was a young adult, and I had very poor boundaries. I felt like people, I just had a whole different outlook on what it meant for people to care for me, and what it meant to care for other people. I thought that for me to care for somebody, it meant for me to think about them all the time. It meant for me to call them all the time. It meant for me to text them all the time. And it doesn't mean any of those things. What it means is to first know who you are, know yourself, and to know what your limitations are, know what you can pour into the relationship. Know what know your flaws, know your imperfections, and love yourself, even, in spite of those flaws and those imperfections and your strengths. But it's really inappropriate to expect for someone else to heal your trauma, to expect things, to expect a person to replace your mom, to expect someone to replace your dad, to expect someone to replace your brother or your sister or your narcissistic spouse or your narcissistic, teacher, whoever was the narcissist in your life. You went through that experience. It sucks. It's awful. It's terrible that your father was a narcissist. It's terrible that your mother was a narcissist. It's terrible that your brother was a narcissist. But to go into different relationships expecting for someone else to fill in those gaps or to replace those people is a recipe for disaster. What you need to do is you need to deal with that experience, recognize that experience for what it was. It sucked. It was awful. It wasn't fair. You didn't deserve it. But you may say, well, Kevin, how do I move past those things and how do I get my needs met? The only one that can meet all of your needs is God and yourself. And a lot of my viewers, as I've said in past videos, probably don't believe in God, probably don't know anything about God or anything like that, um, which is fine. There's no judgment here, but my whole message is to you to recognize that no other person is responsible for filling those gaps that were not filled by your narcissistic parent or the narcissistic caregiver or the narcissist in your life. Like, those things happen, but we have to be able to reparent ourselves. We have to look to ourselves and to God to give us that sense of that sense of stability, that sense of identity. That people are fickle, people are flawed, people aren't going to give us that unconditional positive regard anymore, because they're not designed to do that. It's our responsibility to give ourselves that sense of identity, that sense of definition, that sense of stability in our lives. When we look to a spouse or we look to a friend or we look to a significant other to give us that sense of identity, then this is what we have, which will lead to codependency, which will lead to us attracting narcissistic people, which will lead us to more trauma, which will allow us to re-traumatize ourselves and to attract other toxic people. So this was just a quick video on how allowing ourselves to, or expecting other people to heal our trauma, will create a lot of imbalance and traumatization and lead to codependency within our relationship, and will allow us to almost perform like the narcissist and start using other people to give us that sense of identity. So we're not getting to know people for who they are, and we're not cultivating relationships with them for who they are. We're cultivating relationships with them because of what they can do for us and how they can better serve us. So please stay tuned for more videos. This is Kevin Murphy, and thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.